Most riders chase the same bikes. The loud ones, the flashy ones, the ones with price tags bigger than their personalities. But here's the thing. Some of the best bikes you'll ever ride are the ones no one's talking about. What if I told you that you could get a motorcycle that outperforms Harley's, costs half the price, and will last longer than your first relationship? Stick around, because these underrated gems are about to blow your mind. Number 12, Suzuki GS500. Looking for a bike that just gets the job done? No drama, no debt? The Suzuki GS500 has been quietly doing exactly that since the late 80s. It doesn't shout for attention. No flashy fairings, no digital wizardry, just a dead simple 487cc air-cooled twin that'll outlive bikes 3 times the price. You can still find them dirt cheap because, well, nobody brags about owning one. And that's exactly why smart riders scoop them up. Sure, people call it a beginner bike, but don't mistake that for boring. With 47 horsepower and a curb weight just under 400 pounds, the GS500 will cruise at 70 all day and still sip fuel like a scooter. Think 50 to 70 miles per gallon. That's real-world efficiency with highway legs. Parts everywhere. Maintenance, a wrench and a beer kind of easy. Comfort, a neutral riding position, and a seat that won't punish your spine. Is it sexy? Not unless you squint. But that low profile means used ones often go for under $1,000. Commonly $1,500 to $3,500 depending on mileage and condition. Meanwhile, new GS500s are no longer sold here, but overseas versions still pop up around $7,000 to $8,000 USD brand new. And that's before you turn it into a cafe racer, tracker, tourer, or whatever else your garage can dream up. This thing's a blank canvas. Bottom line, if you want a reliable workhorse that won't complain, won't nickel and dime you, and might actually teach you how to ride better, the GS500 is quietly waiting in the classifieds. While everyone else overpays for the flavor of the month, it's a steal. No frills, no flex, just ride. And coming up next, something even rarer. It's even more of a sleeper, lighter, quicker, and stitched together from the best of 3 worlds. German badge, Japanese engine, and a little Italian madness for flavor. You've probably never seen it, but once you know what it is, you'll start hunting. Number 11, MZ Scorpion. Ever heard of the MZ Scorpion? Probably not, and that's exactly why it's such a hidden gem. Built from 1994 to 2004 by East Germany's MZ, the Scorpion is one of those rare bikes that quietly nailed everything and still got ignored. Yamaha engine, British design, Italian components, a truly international project with zero marketing and even less ego. At the core is a 660cc liquid-cooled single, the same 5-valve thumper from the Yamaha SZR 660, making around 48 to 58 horsepower. That won't melt your face, but here's the twist. It weighs just 380 pounds dry. That gives it a power-to-weight ratio that makes 110 miles per hour feel easy. Club racers loved it for its simplicity, reliability, and raw tuning potential. Some serious builds have pushed it to 150% of the stock output. It came in 3 versions, Sport, Tour, and Traveler, and every one of them punched above their class. Stainless silencers, dual seats, factory panniers. Some even had adjustable bars and pegs, suspension, brakes, and wheels, premium Grimeca gear, giving it handling that's sharp, confident, and a total blast. So why haven't you seen one? No hype, no dealer push, no glossy brochures, just clever engineering from a forgotten factory, which is why used prices are still hilariously low. Think $2,000 to $3,500. The auctions show tours between $2,250 and $2,900. Travelers, around $3,450. Clean 96 models show up at $2,700. Even the rare Sport Cup can be found for $4,000. And with that Yamaha engine, parts are easy, maintenance is dead simple, reliability, rock solid. This isn't a quirky Euro oddball, it's a practical sleeper with real riding chops. The MZ Scorpion is what happens when engineers build a bike without chasing trends. Light, tough, overlooked. Even when a bike nails the essentials, there's still one tiny upgrade that makes a massive difference, especially if you're logging serious miles on a budget-friendly ride. It won't boost horsepower or make your bike sound meaner. But when your hand goes numb an hour into the ride, this one cheap mod suddenly feels like the smartest money you ever spent. Number 10, Yamaha YZF600R Thundercat. The Yamaha Thundercat is one of those bikes that quietly nails everything. Speed, comfort, reliability, and yet somehow nobody talks about it. Built from 1995 to 2007, it was Yamaha's in-between machine. Not a twitchy track missile like the R6, but not some soft beginner bike either. Just a smart, well-balanced sport bike that got lost in the noise. At its core, a 599 cubic centimeters inline four pumping out around 100 horsepower. Not outrageous, but more than enough to rip down twisties or pass semis without downshifting. And the top speed, just under 150 miles per hour. R6 adjacent numbers, without the spine-punishing ergonomics. Weighing in at 417 pounds dry, it hits the sweet spot. Light enough to flick, stable enough for touring, and that's where the Thundercat really shines. Big comfy seat, relaxed bars, a 5-gallon tank that lets you ride longer than most supersports. Add in adjustable suspension, and you've got a bike that handles city traffic, back roads, or highway stretches without breaking a sweat. So why'd it disappear? Blame the R6. As lighter, racier bikes stole the spotlight, the Thundercat got quietly shoved aside. It never got cult status, which is great news if you're buying now. Used prices are a joke. $1,100 to $3,700 depending on condition and miles. KBB lists a clean 2005 around $3,435, with trade-ins near $2,340. Private sellers usually asking $2,000 to $3,500. Reddit riders have scored clean runners for as low as $1,500. If you care more about riding than flexing, the Thundercat is a total sleeper, reliable, comfortable, and built with that classic Yamaha toughness. Parts are everywhere. The engine, smooth as silk. It may not turn heads, but it'll put a grin on your face every ride. But here's the thing. While the Thundercat quietly delivers comfort and speed for pennies, there's a bike out there that laughs at comfort. It doesn't care about fairings, top speed, or Instagram likes. It's tougher, taller, and built like a cockroach in an apocalypse. Some say the Thundercat can last you a decade, but this next machine, it's the kind of bike that might outlast you. Number 9, Honda XR650L. You've probably walked right past one without even noticing, and that's a shame, because the XR650L is a tank disguised as a trail bike. The Honda XR650L hasn't changed since 1993, literally. Same 644cc air-cooled thumper, same steel frame, same no-frills, no-nonsense design, no screens, no ride modes, no gimmicks. And that's the beauty of it. It doesn't need updates because it just works. This thing is a cockroach with handlebars. It's been flogged through deserts, bounced off rocks, dropped in rivers, and it just keeps coming back. Whether you're trail riding, commuting, or blasting through the backcountry, the XR650L doesn't care. It just shows up, every time. So why is it overlooked? Simple, it's tall. That 37-inch seat height scares off shorter riders. It's heavy by today's dual sport standards. And there's zero flash, no Dakar graphics, no aggressive fairings, just a red tank, a big round headlight, and a stance like it's ready to body slam a mountain. It's not here to impress, it's here to outlast. While adventure bikes keep getting bigger, fancier, and more expensive, the XR stays brutally simple and brutally reliable. Parts everywhere. Maintenance, basic, electronics, almost none. This isn't a Swiss Army knife, it's a sledgehammer. And the price? Brand new, it's around $7,600 out the door, but used, you'll see clean examples from $3,500 to $6,000. Dealer bikes sit around $5,999. Private sales, right at $3,500. That's nearly half of MSRP for a bike that could outlive your truck. If you want a dual sport that won't baby you, won't betray you, and definitely won't leave you stranded, the XR650L is it. Not pretty, not trendy, just damn near unkillable. That glowing red thing on your screen? Yeah, that's the subscribe button. Smash it if you want more no-nonsense bikes that eat miles and laugh at breakdowns. But what if you don't want to survive the desert? What if you want to own the city streets instead? Well, there's a bike for you that trades dirt for charm, trades survival for style, and somehow you can get it for the price of a used iPhone. It won't outrun anything. It won't outlast everything. But it might just turn more heads than any other bike on this list. Number 8, Royal Enfield Hunter 350. You ever see a bike that just gets it right? Not by being loud or fancy, but by keeping it simple? That's the Royal Enfield Hunter 350. It doesn't scream for attention, and that's exactly why it works. No overhyped ads, no flashy tech, just a straightforward machine with more personality than half the bikes in its class. It starts around $5,000, cheaper than a Yamaha MT-03 or KTM Duke 390. And yet it feels legit. You get a 349cc air-cooled single metal fenders and that signature Royal Enfield retro modern style. In the US, it's still under the radar. No dealer markup, no bidding wars, and a good chance you'll be the only one at bike night with one. It's got all the right touches: a round headlight, teardrop tank, ribbed seat, and a clean analog digital dash. And yeah, it only makes about 20 horsepower. But this isn't a race bike. It's made to cruise. Upright, light, and easygoing. Perfect for city traffic or slow rolls on the weekend. Because it's simple, it's also stupid easy to work on. No ECU drama, no sensor spaghetti, just a good old school thumper that keeps things low maintenance and low stress. Price? New ones run $3,999 for the base colors, $4,199 for the Rebel shades. But smart buyers are snagging used ones for $2,900 to $3,700. I've seen clean 2023s go for under $3,000, which is wild value for a bike with this much charm. Now, it's not perfect. The clutch is a bit stiff, the seat's not exactly plush, and yeah, it vibrates. But honestly, that's part of its old school charm. Royal Enfield also offers a full lineup of bolt-on factory mods, so customizing it won't wreck your wallet. The Hunter 350 nails that sweet spot. Cool, simple, and soulful. But maybe, just maybe, you're after something a little bigger. Same vintage cool factor, but this time with 4 cylinders, butter-smooth power delivery, and an exhaust note that could make your neighbor's V-twin weep. That is where the next bike comes in. It is a kind of bike that looks like it just rolled off the showroom floor in 1978, and somehow nobody's scooping them up. Number 7, the Kawasaki Zephyr 550. Dreaming of a vintage 4-cylinder that won't torch your bank account? Meet the Kawasaki Zephyr 550, one of the best deals hiding in the used Japanese market. This little sleeper dropped in the early 90s, right when everyone was chasing cutting-edge sport bikes. But Kawasaki, they said, screw it, let's bring the 70s back. What they built was a modern tribute to the legendary Z1. Round headlight, twin shocks, teardrop tank, all the retro style, none of the 70s headaches. Performance? It's not a rocket, but it doesn't need to be. You get around 50 horsepower from a silky smooth, air-cooled inline-4. Top speed hovers around 110 miles per hour. But the mid-range is the real star. It's where this bike comes alive and where real-world riding actually happens. Maintenance, bare bones simple, no liquid cooling to leak, no ECU drama, just a bulletproof analog motor that'll keep ticking, as long as you keep the carbs clean and don't let it rot in the garage. Comfort? It's all there. Upright riding position, wide bars, low seat height, beginner-friendly, traffic-friendly, wallet-friendly. It's a bike that disappears under you until you realize you've been smiling for miles. So why isn't everyone talking about it? Because the bigger Zephyrs, the 750 and 1100, hog the spotlight, and bikes like the Suzuki Bandit 600 stole the budget bike crowd. The 550, it slipped through the cracks, and that's good news for buyers. You can scoop up clean Zephyr 550 SA for about $1,800 to $2,500 here in the States. Private seller deals, straight up vintage 4-cylinders. I saw a Canadian ad at $2,000 and a UK bike at $2,500 USD. Even Aussie examples, which go for $3,000 to $3,700. It doesn't need to shout to get attention. And somehow, That's what makes it special. Classic lines, reliable engineering, and a price tag that feels like a mistake. But what if we peeled off the polish? What if the next bike wasn't just retro, but raw? A machine that rattles, smokes, and makes 0 cents in 2025, and somehow still wins hearts. We're heading into dangerous territory now, where simplicity meets insanity, and legends live on in two-stroke clouds and garage whispers. Number 6, the Yezdi Roadking. Now here's a name that'll light up the eyes of any old-school Indian rider. The Yezdi Roadking. But behind the name is one of the coolest two-strokes you can still snag for peanuts. Built like a tank and louder than the 4th of July, the Roadking carved out a cult following. It had a 246 cubic centimeter two-stroke engine that delivered punchy, torquey power with a signature crackle from dual exhausts. And the same lever worked as both the kickstarter and gear shifter. Weirdness that, honestly, speaks for itself. It's not hard to see why riders overlook it. A smoky two-stroke with kickstart only and a weird shifter doesn't exactly scream easy ride. But low demand means low prices, and that's where the smart money goes. The Roadking didn't disappear because it sucked. It faded when India prioritized fuel-efficient, low-maintenance four-strokes. It's bold, vintage, and unapologetically old school. Big tank, sofa seat, and the kind of character you only get when machines were built by hand, not computers. You won't win any speed records, but you will get smiles, thumbs ups, and probably a few confused looks from younger riders wondering what the hell you're riding. And the best part? You can grab a solid Roadking for next to nothing, around $1,150 to $2,400 USD, depending on condition. Early 90s rider specials can pop up at $1,150, while restored fanatics want closer to $2,400 for mint machines. It's one of the few vintage bikes where the price tag doesn't match the character. The Roadking is a time capsule. Loud, weird, and proud of it, a throwback to when bikes had character baked into every bolt, and maintenance was part of the lifestyle. But what happens when the underdog isn't vintage at all? What if the most slept-on bike isn't old school, but brand new, with tech, performance, and killer looks, yet still ignored just because of a logo? It's time to fast forward from smoky two-strokes to sharp fairings and TFT screens. Number 5, CF Moto 300SS. Here's the truth most riders won't admit. If the CF Moto 300SS had a Yamaha or Honda badge on the tank, it'd be flying off showroom floors. But because it's Chinese, most folks don't even give it a second glance. And that's exactly why it's so dirt cheap and criminally underrated. Let's cut through the noise. CF Moto doesn't have the legacy of the Big Four, but they've come a long way. The 300SS is no knockoff. It's tight, well-finished, and shockingly refined. But because of old biases and a lack of hype, resale values stay low, making it a total steal for riders who care more about substance than status. At just $4,599 brand new, the 300SS punches way above its price. You're getting a 292 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled single, Bosch fuel injection, slipper clutch, full LED lighting, Bluetooth, and a crisp 5-inch TFT display. That's tech usually found on bikes costing $2,000 more, and with its race-inspired bodywork and sharp lines, it looks like a baby Panigale just waiting to be revved. Performance? Dead solid. You've got 29 horsepower, top speed just under 90 mph, and handling that feels planted and precise. It's fast enough for daily duty, fun enough for weekend blasts, and friendly enough for track newbies. So why isn't it everywhere? Two big reasons: brand snobbery and limited dealers. Parts? A bit trickier. Press coverage? Almost none. It also gets slapped with the entry-level label, which scares off some veterans. But that's why smart riders are snagging these for peanuts. Used ones go from $2,270 to $2,990. I even saw one sell for $3,200 out the door, with barely 100 miles. The 300SS proves you don't need a big badge to get a big ride, but maybe you don't care about TFT screens, full fairings, or even looking fast. Maybe you're hunting for something tougher. Something that trades flashy tech for stone-cold reliability. A bike that doesn't just survive the ride, it endures every beating you can throw at it. And the one we're about to hit, it's built to outlast trends, outwork expectations, and maybe even outlast you. Number 4, BMW R1150GS. Here's a bike that could ride through a war zone, shrug off the shrapnel, and still get you home before dinner. Yet nobody seems to want it. The BMW R1150GS is the original adventure beast, the bike that made the big ADB segment what it is today. And somehow, it's still flying under the radar, which is fantastic news for you. While everyone's chasing the latest R1250GS with its spaceship dashboard and sky-high price tag, the R1150GS is sitting quietly in the used market, offering 90% of the capability for about 30% of the cost. So why is it so cheap? For one, it got overshadowed. The adventure model got all the glory thanks to Long Way Round. But the standard R1150GS, no film crew, no hype, just pure function. Second, on most used examples have racked up some serious mileage. We're talking 60,000 miles or more. That scares off casual buyers, but anyone familiar with BMW's Air oil-cooled Boxer twins knows these engines are just getting broken in. Yeah, it's quirky. The gearbox is chunky. The telelever suspension takes some getting used to. And early models had that weird servo-assisted ABS. But if you're even mildly wrench-savvy, these issues are fixable, and that's what keeps prices low. It's not for beginners. At 249 kilograms, wet, and with a tall saddle, this is a big machine. But if you're experienced, confident, and looking for a real-world touring weapon that doesn't care what road it's on, this bike delivers. The price? You can pick up a clean R1150GS for $3,500 to $5,500. I spotted a 2004 Adventure Grab at 4K. Sure, some sellers dream for $13,500, but in reality, a well-kept early owner's bike with 60K to 80K miles runs you around 3.5K to 4.5K. Crazy value for something built to circle the globe. That's insane for a machine built to circle the globe. Verdict? The R1150GS is the bulletproof workhorse everyone forgot about. A dirt-crusted legend with scars, stories, and still plenty of miles left in its tank. And now we're entering sacred ground, the top 3. These aren't just underrated, they're criminally overlooked. What's next? Let's just say it's a triple-cylinder scream in a world full of inline-4s, and it's ready to carve up every corner in its path. Number 2, Triumph Daytona 675. Here's a middleweight sport bike that should have dominated the market, but didn't. The Triumph Daytona 675 is one of the sharpest, most rewarding bikes in its class. And yet, it's still flying under the radar. You can scoop up one for far less than it's worth. The Daytona 675 broke the Japanese inline-4 monopoly with something truly different, a snarling 675cc triple-cylinder engine. That meant more torque down low, a screaming top end, and a soundtrack that'll give you goosebumps. It was buttery smooth in the corners, razor sharp in handling, and surprisingly forgiving on real-world roads. So why isn't everyone riding one? For starters, the Daytona was up against titans: Yamaha's R6, Honda's CBR600RR, and Kawasaki's ZX6R. The Japanese bikes had the big brand trust, massive dealer networks, and MotoGP glow. Triumph? They had performance, but not the marketing muscle. Result? The Daytona 675 was overlooked by the masses, even though it could eat most of its rivals alive on a twisty back road. And now it's discontinued. No new models, no flashy promos, no showroom buzz. That's bad news for Triumph's sales, but great news for used buyers. Fewer people searching means lower resale prices and more bargains sitting quietly on classified 80s. Yes, early models had a few quirks, like electrical gremlins and regulator failures. But most of that got ironed out in later years. Owners love their Daytonas for being dependable, visceral, and shockingly capable. Verdict? The Triumph Daytona, 675 is one of the most underrated sport bikes of the 2000s. Light, fast, exotic, and underpriced. This Brit is a sleeper that punches way above its weight class. The Daytona 675 was a symphony of aggression, a bike that begged to be ridden hard and cornered harder. But not every legend needs to shout. Some bikes earn their stripes in silence. Mile after mile, year after year, they don't chase lap times, they chase horizons. Up next is one of those machines, a bike so balanced, so bulletproof, and so underappreciated that it's quietly outlasted trends, outlived rivals, and still refuses to die. Stick around, because this next one, it's not a racer, it's a lifer. Number 1, Honda VFR 800. The Honda VFR 800, aka the Interceptor, is the Swiss Army knife of motorcycles. Smooth, fast, reliable, and built like a tank. Yet it's dirt cheap on the used market. Why? Because in a world obsessed with specialization, the VFR 800 does everything well, but nothing loudly. Let's start with the heart, a glorious 781 cubic centimeter V4 engine. It purrs like a sewing machine, pulls like a freight train, and sounds like a baby VFR 750 RC30. But since it's not an inline-4 or a twin, many riders shy away from its unique layout, scared off by perceived complexity. At launch, the VFR was cutting edge. Today, some call it dated. But to those in the know, the clean lines and analog charm are honestly timeless. Sure, it's heavier than a pure sport bike and less cushy than a Goldwing, but once rolling, it handles beautifully. Confident, planted, and deceptively nimble. And here's the kicker. It was produced for over 2 decades. That long production run means used examples are everywhere and often go for a fraction of what they're worth. Higher mileage units can dip under $2,500, with clean ones rarely topping $4,400. It's not a hype machine. No wild stories, no collector buzz. It's just a bulletproof bike that can tour across countries, carve up twisties, or take you to work, year after year, without breaking a sweat. Yes, valve jobs can be pricey, and yes, it averages around 38 miles per gallon. But for a bike this capable and reliable, those are small trade-offs. Bottom line, the VFR 800 is the best-kept secret in motorcycling. If you want a bike that quietly outperforms expectations and laughs in the face of depreciation, this is your ride. Still got fuel in the tank? Good, because we've got more rides lined up. Click the next video right here on the screen. Subscribe if you like our content.